Hello and welcome to the making of video for my latest short film, The Magic of the Water. As this was more of a solo project for me, this isn't sort of the typical behind the scenes video that I usually do, as there weren't exactly any funny line flubs or bloopers per se. This project came about because of an Arts Council England initiative supporting artists across the country during lockdown. They distributed grants and asked artists around the country for pieces in return. It was back in June when I was asked to be one of these artists, and initially I did absolutely nothing for about 6 weeks because I was just swamped with schoolwork. Eventually I decided to make a film about water, because if I'd chosen to make anything about sort of dry weather or anything other than this, I would have had absolutely 0 days available to film, because this is England and this is the middle of the summer. On July the 17th, I released my poetry contest announcement, which was a raging success. We had over 20 entries from across the globe. I eventually narrowed down the poems into the winning poem, which was by a local poet called Mark. We had a little chat on Zoom a few weeks ago, and this is how that went.
Hi, Aidan.
Hi Mark, how are you?
Yeah, good.
So, thank you for being willing to call. As I said, I'm recording this for the making of video, and thank you for entering the competition. I really like your poem. It flows really well, and I picked it in particular because I thought it was the one that had the best imagery, because obviously if this is becoming a film, it needs to be able to see it quite easily, and it has to sort of lend itself to being sort of shown in film.
Good, because that's kind of what, obviously, you deliberately left the brief vague, as it were, or open rather than vague. I still did think that this would be set to film, and therefore, it's kind of sound, as it were, and it's a sonic poem in some ways.
Does it have a name, your poem? Does it have a title?
No.
No, okay.
To be honest, I can revise it, fit to purpose. So I'm not precious about it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. If there's magic in the world, it must be in the water. That is a quote, isn't it? From
It is a quote, yes, and it's a quote from a not particularly famous person.
No, it's Lauren Isley, I think.
I think that's right. Yeah, someone like that. Yeah. I don't actually know. I think he was some kind of ecologist or something.
Okay. Where did you hear this quote?
I think I read it in a book a while ago. By a guy called Tristan Gooley, who written a couple of very popular science books, and one is on how to read water. Well,
it's a really good quote, and I like that it is sort of a refrain in the poem. That's quite good. So you've written quite a few poems?
Yeah. Only relatively recently, because I've only been in Leek for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
And before that, I was in London, and I started writing towards the end of my time in London, Islington, Dalston. I mean, sort of very happening place where there was, I think you probably know, there was every kind of artist of every kind, there, right there. And so, I started, just doing some stuff with them. But since I've come here, I've written more, but only for my own.
So you said that you would like the prize money of this competition to go towards Borderland Voices, which is your sort of creative group. Can you tell me a bit more about what Borderland Voices is?
Borderland Voices is a creative charity set up in Leek. It was set up over 20 years ago. It helps people with general well-being. I'm in the writing group, but there's an art group, and there's embroidery, needlework, collage, which is something I know little about. But when I came to Leek, I had certain mental health problems, not severe by that time, but it certainly helped me immensely. It was, it really was the bedrock for me in the early days, and it continues to be for quite a few people. So it's the one date in my week that I do miss occasionally, but I don't like to miss.
Have you still been meeting during COVID, during lockdown?
Via Zoom, yes.
Yeah, all right, okay. That's great. Well, I'm glad to be able to give a £50 donation to...
No, well, thank you. I think it's fantastic.
Other than that, that's all the questions I had. Let me know the details of where I can send this prize money to, and I'll get that done. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I guess, are you completely happy with it as it. I mean, I certainly don't intend to rewrite, but
No.
do you want me to look at it at all, or are you just want to take it?
I'm happy with it as it is. It's a good length as well. I did do a bit of a read through just to check what the length was. It's about 1:45, and that's what I was looking for, really. So
Excellent.
thank you very much for meeting, and I'll let you know when I've got something to show you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Aidan.
All right, bye.
Bye now.
Right.
Then I got to actually filming the project, which there's not a lot of behind the scenes footage of this because it's just hours and hours of this. Just me crouched over with a camera on a gimbal. Not a lot that's interesting about that. And in some locations, the sheer amount of water falling from the sky became too great, and I felt that it was unsafe to get all my extremely non-waterproof equipment out in the elements. So we're currently on our way to a local tourist hotspot, but it's currently raining fairly heavily. The river down there does look quite high, actually. It has been raining sort of all day the last few days, so less than ideal. Okay, so we made it to the beauty spot, as they say. And yes, I am correct in that there are no tourists here, but that's for a pretty good reason. The nice sort of glossy pool that I wanted to film underwater at, that's usually very still and clear, is actually brown, so I can't really get any of the shots that I needed. All of the drone shots in the film were shot by me, except for the penultimate shot over the reservoir, which was shot by a friend of ours called Maxim. I'm currently here with Maxim Jargo, who is a speaker. Hello. And he writes all of the Adobe Premiere guidebooks for Adobe, which is pretty cool. We're here at a reservoir, gonna film our drones with my Spark and his Mavic Mini, get some nice shots for this water film. We were gonna do this yesterday and the day before, but both instances the weather was terrible, so it hasn't cleared up per se.
Yeah, the main thing is the wind, isn't it? It's quite calm. Right then, I'm gonna take off.
I shall do the same. Oh, that's so cool. To the water, but not too close. Excellent. Other than that, all that's left unmentioned is the opening and ending shot of the film, which was just shot in my bedroom. So I'm about to shoot the very first opening sort of shot of the film with the dripping leaf, which is kind of ironic because I've pretty much filmed every other shot at this point, kind of doing everything in reverse order. I just plucked this very nice leaf from our front garden. I have a
spray bottle full of water, and I've got a completely black background, which is the look I'm going for, just nothing in the background. I'll have the camera roughly where I am, I'll have the leaf just about here, drip down, a light in. Right, this is the setup I'm working with here. Decided not to go with the big softbox light because that was too much light and too diffuse. So I've got this little LED panel here that's more focused on the subject. In the center here, got the glass of water, which I'll just be dripping from my finger. That's not disinfectant, that's just water. And when the camera's here, looking at that, and you darken the image a bit, it looks completely the background, rather than this just wrinkly. That looks terrible.
Narration-wise, I asked a friend of ours who's a local storyteller and a poet to do the narration, and I did record some behind the scenes of that, but I forgot to focus the camera, so it all looks like this. So, get from that what you will.
Alright, I'm just going to run you through quickly what I'm doing editing-wise. Obviously this is a film about water, so everything needs to be very smooth, very flowing. The shots need to just sort of fall into each other without you really noticing. As you can see, I've got all of the fades are sort of the sweeping fades rather than just a harsh line. All of the audio tracks start before the clip starts and end after the clip ends. This is again just so they overlap, so they flow between each other, so you don't really notice when one clip starts and one clip ends. They all just merge into one nice flowing piece. I've got quite a few cross dissolves in between, which just let it slowly fade between clip to clip. Each clip has its own audio track, which we filmed at the time for that specific thing using my Zoom H5. We've also got a bit of ambience at the beginning here, which I just filmed standing still in the middle of some forest. This is the narration line, so that's just steady throughout. The water droplet sound effects are not actually from this clip, I just got those from online because this was actually completely silent. So, bit of movie magic there, bit of Foley. Then underneath the narration you have the very calm, soothing music track, and there is another music track which comes in the underwater section, which sounds like. So that's nice and underwater sounding. We've also got some underwater sound effects. Other than that, there's not too much more to say. There's color grading on all the clips, of course. Basically just boosting the blacks, increasing the shadows, making it a bit gloomier, and a little bit of saturation to sort of warm it up slightly. And for clips like this one, which were naturally very yellow for some reason, I just made it more blue and green to make it sort of fit in. The entire film was shot at 60 frames a second, which means that you can slow it down to 50% and it still looks like a smooth video. So as a result, quite a few of these clips are at 50%, such as this one, which makes it just more flowing and smooth. So this sort of highlighted section is the actual finished film, and this is all of the footage I didn't use. So I actually recorded hours and hours of files, and I only used a very small percentage of the total footage that I shot. So I've got a bunch of plant shots and various other things from in the forest that I just never used. I mean, there's this huge waterfall that I went to that didn't feature once because there was nowhere to put it, which is a shame because there's some really, really nice shots that I didn't end up using, but that's the same with any film that's ever been made. So there you go, there's the edit. Back to me in a field.
And there you go, a finished short film. Hopefully you liked the film and found this behind the scenes interesting for those of you who are interested in that kind of thing. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next Sunday.